Bienvenidos a esta gran comunidad. Se trata de una comunidad con propósito, conformada por individuos que quieran desarrollarse con humildad y apertura para dejarse desafiar. Personas que quieren, desde el ser, empoderarse en este mundo cambiante y complejo. Se trata de una comunidad que existe gracias a grandes empresas que ponen al talento y el bienestar en el centro, que han aprendido a dar sentido y significado a lo que hacen. Empresas que entendieron que las personas somos la organización y que el liderazgo se debe a las personas. Un liderazgo desde el ser al servicio de los demás. Te estamos invitando, si quieres formar parte de una conversación con sentido y humana. Estaremos contigo dando vida a una comunidad que se apoya y se sostiene todos juntos. Mi intención es que seamos el cambio que queremos ver y por eso lo que quiero es hablarte al oído, abrirte mi casa y sentados juntos en el sofá que conversemos como conversan los seres humanos que disfrutan de una buena tertulia para aprender unos de otros. Estarán invitados siempre los últimos jueves de cada mes a la misma hora. Para eso nos acompaña Eva Cerrolaza, querida amiga, mentora, coach y nuestra directora de I+D en Prestigio. Y en algunas ocasiones tendremos invitados que desean aportar y apoyar a esta comunidad.
Claro que sí, Edu. Venimos a encender los corazones. Ojalá aceptes esta invitación. Si lo haces, vente a la conversación mensual con curiosidad y con conciencia. El liderazgo nos pertenece a todos. El cambio nos exige a todos. Pero no tenemos por qué hacerlo solos. Si queremos aprender y adaptarnos con mayor conciencia de lo que somos y del entorno en el que estamos, solo podremos lograrlo desde el ser y la comunidad. Aprendamos a parar. Regalémonos este momento de valor mensual para reconocernos como humanos, como seres vulnerables. Estoy segura que le darás sentido a estas conversaciones porque las necesitarás.
Esta comunidad de liderazgo desde el ser nos pertenece a todos, estás incluido. Sos parte. Bienvenido a mi casa. Muy buenos días a todos, ¿cómo están? Espero que estés muy bien. Eva, bienvenida.
I hope you have been well. Today is since Madrid, Eva. Yes, so I've been just in expectative because we can share with everyone here this new life that is gathering together to talk to relevant topics.
Estamos
Yes,
súper
pretty much.
entusiasmados de este nuevo
We are
ciclo
really
para
proud of this and really
el
enthusiastic
trabajo. Pero me
and the
gustaría
job.
poder aprovechar para agradecer a todas las
I would like
compañías
to
que
thank
hacen
every
posible
single
este espacio.
company which is
Podemos
part
verlas
of this company
ahí en pantalla. Son
in this
5
stream.
compañías
There are a
que
couple of
nos
companies
facilitan,
that is going to be
se
easier,
comprometen
that is committed with. So just for a while, I cannot hear from the main speaker. So check, just hold on for a while. In the meantime, I received this signal from the main speaker. Which of every single elements they have more impacts in happiness at your job? Because before studying, we need to sit down and to be aware that is going to be ready for the conversation with Ben-Shahar. How, what are we looking for? Where we're looking for happiness, and as we were saying with Eva, since no too much time ago to understand the causes. How can we collaborate for every single one of us will be better, and being better, we're more productive and we're happy. And over there we have that survey for every single one be connected with that they feel with what you practice. Which of the next elements have more impact related to happiness at your job? Salary, the environment to work, boss, learnings, teachings, or the proposal? And of course, you say, well, it's a little bit of every single one. But which of the next elements has the most impact, the most? Which is one of those that I don't know, for Eva, maybe no, she cannot say yet. Yes, because we can't get in trouble at this moment. So maybe we're gonna ask to Tal as well, in order to say he's gonna tell us which is the of the elements is gonna be more relevant as well, of course. How do you continue and how she's affected to make this sense to things? Very interesting. Why we're seeing happiness and welfare? Because we're in a really common topic to everyone. Or maybe that we are happy and we interpret every single different things and how to vincule if we are seeing and how often saying or listening to it because you have a good guy as a boss, because you're focused, that's what you have related to your organization and everything. That is what you got. It's just like they were looking for happiness, waiting for where maybe that just life gives us, and as is, it brings to us as well. And what if it's not a lucky thing? What about if precisely we're going to be able to see some other side, what happened with the happiness with every single one of us, and with my transit in my laboral day as well. What is going to be depending on my task? What about my possibilities? What about the lucky thing? Or is just something lucky that we were talking with happiness? We're gonna go there. We'll go so because there are too many questions. I'm very doubts as well because it's going to be curiosity because I come with too many weeks to report with this report. Totally, it was really glad because of the introduction and remind me that just 1 month and a half, and we were with this first with universities. It's gonna be work in order to know what to accomplish related to the sustainable developments that we're gonna have here in the whole process. SDG or sustainable in this case, related to the summit, interior development objectives. We cannot obtain anything with the outside if we don't change the inside. And that's why we work with 5 axes because essentially are the being, thought, the relationship with others, by 5 axes that everything has to be with us. With similarity and coherence as well. Those and Zen monk that is available on the internet as well. With the Shahar, they are related to the reminded that we are working together. We're going to invite our guest related to Israel and American as well. We had the opportunity to travel practically just 1 week, 10 days with Latin America, talking about this, about happiness related to psychology and positive psychology, but a bunch and disciplines and different disciplines. Is the first course of Harvard positive psychologist, and it started with more than 100,000, the most popular course in the history of Harvard.
Les recuerdo, sorry, before I hand over the mic, a todos poder elegir la opción de traducción en inglés.
They can choose the channel to listen into English as well.
Igualmente, Edu, que puedan hacer las preguntas a través del chat. Sorry.
Muy bien.
It's wonderful to be here.
Great. We have so many questions to ask you, and why don't we start with a general question so that you can lay off the grounds? Why is it important to study, to consider happiness at work, and what can you say about it?
Yeah, you see, there is a misconception today around the world about the relationship between success and happiness. Most people believe that if you become more successful, if you achieve a particular goal, if you make so much money, if you land the right job, or get into the right university, or find the right partner, all these goals, then you'll be happy. Success leads to happiness. But what we know from a lot of research and also from a lot of personal experiences is that this relationship doesn't hold true. In fact, sometimes the opposite is the case, meaning people who are consistently successful end up being less happy. We see it with rock stars. We see it with some, super athletes. We see it with very wealthy business people. In fact, the more successful they become, the less happy they become. Why? Because they believe that success will lead to happiness, and now they're successful and they're still not happy. And now they don't even have the hope that they had earlier that when they will be successful, happiness will find them. So they have gotten to their goal and haven't achieved their real, deep aspiration of being happy. Success does not lead to happiness. However, there is a relationship between these two variables, but it's the opposite of what most people think. It's not that success leads to happiness, it's rather that happiness leads to success. So what we know is that if you increase levels of well-being, even by 3, 4, 5%, not that much, you significantly increase levels of creativity and innovation. And of course, creativity and innovation is no longer a luxury in the modern workplace, it's a necessity. Additionally, you increase levels of well-being by 3 to 5%, you find significant increase in productivity, in levels of engagement. Daniel Goleman, the psychologist, calls our age the age of distraction. So engagement is really important because when people come to work, even if they're in the workplace or in front of their computer for 8, 9 hours a day, that doesn't mean that they're being productive, creative, engaged. They could very well be distracted. They very often are, which is why you increase levels of well-being, engagement goes up significantly. That matters. Teamwork, relationships in general improve significantly when you increase levels of well-being. Physical health improves. Vitality, energy goes up significantly with a small increase in well-being. So what we see is a direct impact of well-being, of happiness on success. And when I say success, I mean personal success of the individual, as well as organizational success, as well as societal success, because all these micro successes add up to macro flourishing. So why is happiness important in organizations? Well, first and foremost, because we all want to be happy, because it feels good to feel good. So that is the direct impact of happiness. There is also an indirect impact of happiness, the byproduct of increasing well-being. And that is for creativity and innovation, for productivity, for engagement, for motivation, for organizational profits, for individual flourishing.
That is very interesting to see how we look at success thinking it will lead to happiness when it's not necessarily the case, or as you say, probably is the other way around. And it's also interesting that we can't search for happiness just with that name. I remember you telling me that I think it was Thoreau, the French poet and philosopher, that said happiness is like a butterfly. When you try to chase it, it flies away. But if you take care of other things, it comes slowly on your shoulder. Talk us a little bit about that paradox of not looking for happiness with that name.
Yeah, Eduardo, this is such an important concept and such an important and meaningful misunderstanding that many people, even within my field, do not fully recognize. So what is the paradox? So on the one hand, I just spend a few minutes sharing with you the importance of happiness, of why you should pursue happiness, of how it will increase your creativity, productivity, will make you a better employee, will improve your relationships in the workplace, at home, will make you healthier, you will actually live longer. So for every reason conceivable, you want more happiness. Happiness is a good thing. So that's one side of the equation, but there is another side. And that side tells us, and this is specifically research by Iris Moss, who's from the University of San Diego. What she and her colleagues show is that people who value happiness, who wake up in the morning and say, I want to be happy, I want to pursue happiness for whatever reason, whether it's because you'll be more successful or because you just want to feel good. But people who wake up and value happiness and pursue happiness actually end up being less happy. Now that's a problem. Do we kid ourselves? Do we mislead ourselves and say something to the effect of, I really don't care about happiness. I'm not pursuing happiness, but then stealthily on the side actually pursue happiness? I mean, self-deception is not the path to happiness. So what do we do about, on the one hand, happiness being very valuable, but on the other hand, being told that pursuing it directly actually hurts us more than helps us? The answer to that is that we need to pursue happiness indirectly. Let me use an analogy that has helped me a lot in understanding this. So you go outside and it's a beautiful, warm, sunny day. And you look up at the sun, and what happens? It burns your eyes. You hurt yourself. So looking at the sun directly, that hurts. However, what if you take the sunlight and you have, a prism that you use, and with the prism, you break the rays of the sun. And what do you see? You see the colors of the rainbow. And then you look at those. And then you can enjoy them and savor them and derive benefits from their beauty. So observing the sun directly, that hurts. Observing it indirectly, there's benefit there. And it's the same with happiness. Pursuing happiness directly, that hurts us. It actually makes us less happy. Pursuing happiness indirectly, that can contribute to our well-being. So for example, pursuing happiness directly is about saying, I want to be happier, I choose to be happy, I want my company to be a happy company. Indirectly means breaking it down, just like we break down sunlight, into its elements. What are its elements? Things like meaning and purpose, things like gratitude, things like physical activity, things like relationships, things like intellectual growth and development, things like being present and mindful. These are all elements of happiness. And if I pursue those, then I increase my levels of happiness. That's how I overcome the paradox. How? By indirectly pursuing happiness, pursuing those elements that make us up happiness. In other words, pursuing the metaphorical colors of the rainbow.
What a beautiful metaphor. Eva, what do you think? Can we grasp those colors and start trying to understand those colors?
It's a good metaphor, yes, Edu, thank you, Tal. I was thinking then if we have those elements, purpose, you say, those things that are meaningful for me, that means that it's attainable for me. I have a responsibility to my own happiness, isn't it true? And what about the system of a company?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you chose purpose. I gave many examples and you honed in on purpose, which is so critical, of course, for personal happiness, as well as for organizational well-being. So one of the best ways to indirectly pursue happiness is to ask the question, what is meaningful to me? What is my purpose? Or to connect to the organizational purpose, which could be anything from saving lives to improving lives to oiling the wheels of the market. which improves lives. So however you connect to purpose, that's important, because that gets people up in the morning. And more than that, this is especially important during challenging times, such as the times we're going through today. So the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once remarked that when you have a why, you can overcome any how. When you have a why, you can overcome any how. In other words, when you have a sense of meaning and purpose, why do I wake up in the morning? Why am I working beyond the paycheck? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Then you have a reason for being. Then you can overcome any difficulty and hardship. In fact, what the research shows, you don't just overcome any difficulty and hardship, you actually grow stronger as a result of challenges with a strong sense of purpose.
Okay. Purpose is definitely one of those colors of the rainbow. Another one that you mentioned is relationships, relationships at work, teamwork. With the pandemic and the hybrid way of working, how can we achieve meaningful relationships? How can we do that at work?
Yeah, you know, Eduardo, you may recall when it seems like years ago, it was, I guess, 4 years ago, but the pandemic has distorted all time. When we worked together in a few companies in Latin America, we did the research on relationships, and we found that Latin America is the happiest region in the world. But we knew that before. But what we also found was that the happy group in Latin America was the older generation rather than the younger generation. And the main reason for that was that the older generation relied on real face-to-face, traditional, so to speak, relationships, whereas the young generation relied mostly on social media. And 1,000 friends on social media are no substitute for that one best friend. And the question is, if it's so important to have real face-to-face, in-person interactions, what does this mean for our present and future, when so many workplaces are either going digital or many, if not most, are going or will go hybrid? Here is what it means. It means, first of all, that hybrid is a lot better than fully online. Even if it's more efficient when you don't have to travel to work, even if it's more convenient for 1,000 reasons, there is still a lot of value for in-person, in-office, playing in the same sandbox, working in the same boardroom. There's a lot of value to that, even if it's more expensive. Why? Because the benefits thereof are significant. Remember, I mentioned you increase levels of well-being, even by a little bit. And what you find is increase in creativity and innovation, in productivity, in teamwork, and so on. Well, face-to-face interactions significantly increase levels of well-being. So that's point one. Point two, even when you are online, it is still possible to derive a great deal of benefit, and in terms of relational well-being. If you're paying attention to whomever it is across the screen from you, if you're being mindful and present to the conversation, as opposed to using this time to doing many other things, because you can simply, mute yourself and switch the screen off and multitask. So if we can single task when we are interacting with people, even if it is online, not ideal, but there are still many benefits to relational well-being, and we can still cultivate and strengthen our relationships with others. But that takes paying attention, being present to the relationship, really listening, engaging with the person, even if they're not in the same room with us.
To achieve that, would you recommend to have 10 minutes of open conversation before or after the scheduled meetings? Is there any tip to achieve that attention connection in the present with your teammates?
Yes, so my recommendation would be to, first of all, be selective about who we meet with and how long we meet with. Because very often what can happen is that, we are on Zoom meetings for, 8 hours a day. No person, not even the Dalai Lama with his ability to focus can stay focused on other people via Zoom for 8 hours straight. Just not realistic. So we need to be more selective about how many meetings we attend. And when we attend, to have it part of our organizational social contract that when we're together, which means we single task. We're together now rather than multitask. Yeah, we're together, but at the same time, I'm doing other work. I'm doing my email. I'm taking care of things at home because I can. So even having less screen time, but higher quality screen time, that is certainly a way to go. In addition, if we only have online meetings, then we need to use that time also to socialize. Human beings are arguably, before anything else, social animals. We need that. And we know that organizations where there are strong social bonds, in these organizations perform better. We know that in these organizations, employees are far less likely to leave. So retention rates go up significantly, which is very significant today when we talk about the Great Resignation. So we need to put time aside to socialize, to get together, to get to know one another beyond just our thoughts on this product or this strategy or this client. And if that takes 10 minutes at the beginning and or 10 minutes at the end, then these are 10, 20 minutes that are very well spent.
Maybe Tal, that's supposed to review our priorities in the team, in the organization, with time, with what is important for everybody. To put the whole being, the person in the middle of the work team, in the middle of the work time. Don't you think it's a great challenge? But actually,
it's a great challenge, Eva, and it's not, it's not a nice to have. It's a must have. Why? Because when I speak with managers, with leaders, with organizations, I don't tell them the main purpose is to make your employees happy because it's moral. I think it is moral to increase levels of happiness, but that's not my primary argument to managers. My primary argument, it's a competitive advantage. My primary argument, if you want a successful organization, you must, again, not nice to have, must have, you must focus on the whole person, because the whole person comes to work. And 100 years ago, it was still, in theory, the whole person coming to work, but they would come in, and the most important thing was that they get their, $5 or 20 pesos, and they're happy. Because that's what they were looking for in the workplace. These were the expectations. Today, the expectations are very different. The Great Resignation, there's one reason behind it. Expectations have changed. And if we want to keep our best employees, and as Peter Drucker put it, our best employees are volunteers. We need to treat them as such. Because if we don't, they'll go and volunteer elsewhere. There's huge demand for for top talent. So if an organization wants to maintain the top talent, they have to look at the person as a volunteer. And therefore, as you pointed out, Eva, they have to look at the whole person, not just a small part.
It's very interesting because, as you say, expectations have changed, driven by the young generation, but now overall, driven by the pandemic, but now extended. And so companies that throughout the years only worried about productivity now have to take care about people's well-being and happiness. That will impact productivity, but indirectly. In this desire, some people, for whatever reasons, they don't want to go hybrid. And so there's a tension between what the company needs or expects and what the people expect. How do we bridge that gap?
The most important thing when you think about organizations and their employees is the right fit. It's not about this organization is the best place to work for everyone. Such organizations at least don't exist, or certainly don't exist at the very successful realms of organizations, because an organization that tries to please everyone is not an organization that will thrive and maybe not even survive for long. An organization needs to do what is right for their product, what is right for their vision, what is right for their strategy. And if the manager and the leader decides that this is in our organization, we want our people to be together, and we want them to be together 5 days a week, not just 2 days a week, then so be it. Then this is an organization decision, and then the organization will find people who fit into that value, into that decision. Because there's a lot to be said for being at work every day. Now, again, that's not right for every organization, and it's not necessary for every product. It's very different if you're, you have a manufacturing plant versus IT services. It's very different if you're a salesperson where you have to travel around anyway, versus the HR department where you need to be accessible, available to employees. So there are many factors that matter, but the managers, the leaders have to decide what is right for our organization. What kind of organization do I see? And then follow up on it, realizing that it's not the right fit for everyone. You can't and you don't need to please all people all of the time. In fact, some of the most successful organizations in history, whether you're talking 20th century or today, were places where some people would never ever work because it would be hell on earth for them. Whereas for other people, it was heaven on earth, working with these organizations for an entire career. So it's all about the right fit. Identify what's right for the organization, and then find the people that match the needs of the organization while thinking about the whole person.
The reshuffling of workers and companies to readapt.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, Eduardo, because maybe the great resignation is simply the great reshuffling.
What can we say to everyone that is watching us now to write down 2 or 3 things to start right away or tomorrow morning? Very specific, very small steps in the right direction.
So I have to start with this, even though it's going off on a tangent. the first thing is, am I taking care of myself? And how can I better take care of myself? And by that, I mean, again, going back to the idea of the whole person. Am I exercising regularly? Am I getting enough rest? Do I have enough time with my loved ones, whether it's friends or family? Am I learning? Am I developing as an individual? So first of all, taking care of the self, because when we take care of the self, we better take care of others. Second, to reflect on, not just by ourselves, with others, whether it's with our fellow employees, whether with a coach, whether with our partner or friend, to reflect on where we want our organization to be 5 years from now, and then derive actual steps that we will take today. So that's second. Third, appreciate what is already going well. So it's not just thinking about what I need to change, where I need to go in the future. It's about also appreciating what is going well in the present, or what did I do, or we as an organization do very well over the past 2 years, which have not been easy for most people. So appreciation of the past is important if we are to create or imagine or bring into existence a better future.
Okay. That you just told the importance of take care of ourselves in the way to take care of the others. If I was John Smith, 48 years old, working all the day because I have two children to take care, in a normal life, normal people, how to start? Where do I have to start to build this happiness, this conscientious, to take care about myself and of the others too?
Yeah. So my first recommendation would be to start small, and related to that, start easy.
Okay.
So for example, let's say I want to become physically more active. We know that, first of all, of course, it's healthier physically, but also it also contributes to better management, to more creativity. It also contributes to more resilience, because physical toughness is related to mental toughness. So exercising is good. I mean, there are very few people who would tell you otherwise. But let's say I have not exercised for a while, and especially during COVID, I've been lazy and have regressed in this area. Start small, start easy. Meaning, start with 5 minutes a day. Easy meaning start where it's fun for you. Is it fun for you to just dance? Is it fun for you to go for a walk with a friend? Is it fun for you to maybe just play football with your kids? Whatever is fun, whatever is easy, start with that. And the key here, and that applies to all change efforts in organizations, at home, on the individual level, on the collective level. The key is that small changes make a big difference if consistently applied. I'll give you another example of short and easy. Let's say you want to start being more present, more mindful. Start by meditating 1 minute a day, or maybe 3 minutes a day if you really want to go wild. But start small and do it consistently, day in and day out. Or let's say you want to create a more positive workplace, where you're more appreciative of your employees. Set yourself the target of appreciating one employee a day. You do it consistently, you do it day in and day out. Over time, it will become a habit and will expand. So the key is small changes, consistently applied, and these will make a big difference over time. Now, what that does also is it makes it a lot more accessible to apply, because I don't have to say, well, I don't have an extra hour a day to start taking care of myself. Well, you don't need an extra hour a day. In fact, you can use what you're already doing just in a slightly wiser way. Instead of taking the elevator, walk up the stairs. When you are being with a client, make a point of being extra mindful, extra present. And when you're doing that, you're meditating. So small changes can be applied in your day-to-day without an additional expenditure of time. Just simply need to find creative ways of introducing small positive changes consistently applied.
That is so fantastic to hear such practical and life-changing tips and recommendations. Just one last comment. Tal Ben-Shahar is the co-founder of HSA, the Happiness Studies Academy. They're launching another cohort very soon. We have partnered with Tal to promote it throughout Latin America, and it's really a very unique way of diving into the happiness studies. Tal, do you want to say a word about it?
Yeah, if I had to limit it to one word, the word would be meaningful. It's very meaningful to me to work with Prestigio. It's very meaningful for me to bring the certificate in happiness studies to Latin America. And I hope that these ideas from the science of well-being will enter more and more organizations. And I hope that it will happen because a happier world is a better world. Because if we increase levels of well-being, we'll have more productive, more creative, more engaged employees who play better on their teams, and very importantly, who are kinder and more generous. And this is what we all want for ourselves, for our families, for our organizations and nations.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much on behalf of Eva, myself, all the Prestigio live crowd that's out there. And we'll continue our conversations with you because they're always inspiring. Eva?
Thank you, Tal. It was a great conversation. I will have so many ideas to start these little steps. Thank you so much for this practical for these practical
ideas and recommendations.
Yeah, thank you, Edu.
You are so happy that you don't find the right words.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Tal. We say goodbye. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Qué extraordinario, ¿no es cierto, Eva? Ahora podés volver al español y explayarte.
Maravilloso.
We can't come back to the Spanish. Yeah, it was really great. Well, I'm doing my little efforts as well. That makes sense as well. At the same time, we're talking towns and of course on the way to be ready and to take risks, because it has some risks and it has some consequences as well about we're going to be part and this construction of happiness and to have fun. Do you agree? Yes, totally agree. These suggestions, little steps, little moments to be aware, as we were saying the other day, to be aware that the happiness is part on our hands as well. That is happiness. The awareness to generate, because sometimes the labels is not happiness. I would like to the bureaucracy to admit these kind of things, to pass from these kind of happinesses, as well as we were discussing during the whole morning and the chat as well, because happiness is in on our hands. We can work together, little steps, little by little. Consistency is a must as well, and to take care of us, to ourselves, to the teams, and of course to organizations. The good news is that we need to discover happiness in a concrete way, in something concrete. Let's do something, because we have some spare minutes. I choose one thing that I calls my attention, that I got surprised. Just 1 minute and 30 seconds, a small gathering, a summary, so we can share among all of us and the audience as well. Do you agree? Well, I start with this idea of the rainbow. That happiness, you cannot see the sun straight, but you can see the colors of the rainbow, painting it with small things, and to continue painting with small things as well as light. We do believe with the same metaphor, in a thunder, in a prisma, you can divide it into different lights as well. Those are the same productions that we have, and that is going to give us a light in that learning of our own happiness. I guess it sounds to me the difference between successful and happiness. That small difference or point of view that we have related to successful and happiness at the same time. So means it's gonna be the way when happiness occurs, and when we can have and we can build it up. Yes, maybe he was telling me as well at its moment that there were some Harvard studies related to Harvard studies. They had done these kind of studies related to the innovation as well, because they have a temptation to see, well, what about if they obtain what they wanted, and what about the final result in this case? And well, the good news related to this is they have achieved what they wanted at a time. Was I'm famous, I have a lot of money. So, but the bad news it was that I didn't feel happy with this. So it's something that I was believing that it was gonna be great, but finally it'd be total disagree with it. And as you can see, I'm sorry. Well, okay, I'm gonna tell something very important. I was telling you that as well as sometimes you do that extinction, you have a feedback. We can enhance the way and the proposal to make sense. Something simple is ours, is powerful. Do you think so? Totally agree. And we were wondering, and my audience were asking us, if I have a company, we need to discuss among all of us, or just some part of the team or something. What do you believe, Eva? I have no idea, but what do you think about it? But I do believe that, in fact, related to work experiences as well, every single person has his own life sense, because maybe it's going to be a searcher of that makes sense, and we have the perception in order to belong to a system that is always centering on their mission and belongs to us, to have an alignment over the table with the team in order to be able to speak in terms of that makes sense. What is the sense of what we are doing here, and the why and what for? And the team is getting transforming, and we can connect each other just to change sometimes some things within the organization. Yes, totally agree. And as you were mentioned, is to try to find the proposal in our companies. They are looking forward to ha- having a proposal, a purpose. For example, the bank, we use the construction of premiums as well, because when you go to the bank to ask for a loan or something to be able to say the baby bed of a, or I don't know, to change the kitchen, or I don't know, to change something in my house, we need to connect as an employee of a member of teams with the purpose of our organizations. And that is only coming back, as we were saying, aligned with the own one as well. Because sometimes I gave a conference, it was in Bolivia. A person was near myself and he told me, "Thank you very much," because we were in the center and they proposed the purpose as well. And he said, "Thank you very much. I already know I have to leave this company. I have to quit this company," because sometimes that's very important as well. Because environmentalist people, and it's part of that huge challenge, that huge realities, and huge realizations that we've got as well. Well, sometimes that lead us to check and, of course, to explore our own interior dialogue, as he said, is emotion. What about our values, to organizational values as well? Those principles that are working together because we are just in such a way organizing the own system, and in that those qualities to recognize our own abilities on talents more than the things that we don't have related to the positive psychology. And from there, the attention on that, he was telling us how to take care of ourselves in those talents, in those qualities, in those self-awareness. From that part to start delivering everything. Totally agree. And in that opening, I didn't mention this time, but we were talking about this curiosity. Curiosity as a source of learning as well, to opening to the world, related to the nature as well, the empathy, the concepts for happiness, that which has an acronym in this case, as we say, one of those colors related to the communication that we were discussing here, the communication and understandable how to have the capacity from heart with authenticity is something that we work and we highlight, and of course that permits to have with authenticity as well, with the heart in your hand, with empathy, not only the one who think and what you feel, the other when he's speaking. And thinking also to many speeches that we have heard, the question would be, why do I need all of this? Just in that inertia of the results of the KPIs or something? It's good to understand. I said from the beginning, Todd, it's very good to understand that successful or the results is indirect, and that happiness is what's going to give us better incomes. It's not backwards, because we have trying to have the cause and effect, because it's going to be precisely related to these constructors, related to happiness and pay attention focus as well. We're reaching just the end part. I would like to ask you, all of you, how are you? How do you feel? This small stop is going to be just in the middle of the week. It has been contributing to take awareness that you can ask about yourself. That is not going to be just a remain, what interesting. No, it's going to do relevant in our daily life. From tomorrow on, we're going to have 5 exercises and 5 minutes mindfulness or meditation or in production. The main fit for people. With what emotions did you finish this session? With what emotion did you ended up today's session? Let's see. Okay, now Edu, it's good to ask. What about the emotion? I'm gonna ask you. What have you lived? Well, I go with enthusiasm. It's a word that I love. The etymology of enthusiasm. Do you know where it's coming from? Do you know it? In the old Greek, when the actor went to the stage, it was kind of crazy. Is embedded God's spirit. God's spirit is when we say, well, we have the full of energy, all of that, because my passion and my purpose is to contribute and to lead you all guys to your desk at your house, at your office, wherever you are sitting down, to take, well, the master number one of happiness in order to change just a little bit our lives to every single one of us in our organizations. Thankful, tranquility, too much tranquility and gratefulness as well in order to feed. That word is very thoughtful, pensive. Yes, there is an unhappy person over there as well. Yes, I add that. I add the illusion to find new motives to see these new lives and to share with all of you guys this space, the illusion, whatever, with is magical. And I talk on all those topics to become a reality as well. It's gonna be totally clear as well. Well, we thank you all for connecting to us in order to be open to these things. We're going to come back. We're going to repeat again this coming live as well as we were saying Thursday of last Thursday every single month. The BIM Bernardo Vargas, being to serve because everybody is serving to get busy myself, to take care of myself as well, is also to serve others. However, we have to live international transformation in ISA's group using precisely these principles, totally applicable to the practical. Yes. Thank you very much to the companies, the sort of all the ones, the attendees for that support and to cheer you up to be part of this community. As you can see, we can learn together. We have these companies, thanks to them, because it's going to be possible. Thank you very much for that connection and for that support to cheer you up, as we were saying from the beginning, to leave your data in order to send information without other information or intention, to have the capacity to know more, to get more information about this, because I go with my happy heart as well, as we were feeling, because I'm happy and really thankful as well with all of you guys. Me too. Thank you very much, you all, and see you in 1 month here with Eva to talk about what we do with all these kind of things and to know about the next steps. A huge kiss, Eva. You're in Madrid, and I'm from Buenos Aires, and all of you for Hispano America as well. Okay, a huge hug to everyone, and so long. See you soon.